Welcome everybody to the Savage Servant Podcast. My name is Nick.
My name is Jason. Today we're going to start on our series introducing the concept of what a savage servant is. Today we're going to start on the concept of the savage portion of that, the mindset of always getting better, to fulfill what God has made for you, getting better in every way, being the emotional standard for your family, and then protecting and fighting for your family, whether that be from other people in bad situations, and spiritually.
Being a savage means you do the hard things. You are the captain of the ship. You lead yourself and your family in not only a godly way, but you provide in every way possible, mentally, emotionally, to a financial standpoint, and so on.
The mindset of being a savage is not what people think it is in the way of being a basic or very unintelligent person. It's the opposite of what a normal person is the opposite of average. It's trying to get better in every way to fulfill your role in your family, in your community, in your church, and becoming a better version of yourself, because that's what God has made you to be, and using that to serve others, not serving yourself in your pursuit of excellence, but becoming a better man in order to be a better father, a better husband, a better community leader.
Yeah. I think that being a savage definitely means you have to step up. You have to elevate yourself in ways that you haven't before. And that means from a mindset standpoint of knowing that you are carrying literally everything. And I know that's a lot for some people to take in, but it's the truth. Because when you're the leader of a relationship or a family or someone that gets looked up to for whatever reason, you want to be that example. So when times get tough, you're the rock. You don't waver with the wind. You step up to the plate. You do what's necessary to take care of yourself and those that you care about. And for a lot of people, including ourselves, we've fallen short in that area, which has brought us to where we are today. And we're continuing to learn. We're continuing to grow. But as you will hear me say, nothing is impossible with God. Absolutely nothing. If you have that faith and you believe, even in the worst of times, even against what your 3D reality is showing you, faith is to have that ability to believe what you don't see. And in the end, you'll see it.
The most important piece of that, I think, is being the emotional standard for your family. And that's one of the things that's the hardest. As men, we have the ability to take on physical things a lot easier than I think we do emotional. And so that's the part that I've had to learn the most and continue to learn. But being able to be the calm in the storm, to be able to stay that standard for your family when they're having a hard time and they're possibly taking things out on each other or you, and being the person that is calm, because you have to be the person that in the midst of the chaos is able to bring everybody else down to that level. And if you raise yourself up to the level that everyone else is in a situation, it makes things a lot worse.
Being that constant is the hardest thing, because you have emotions too. You have thoughts, feelings that you want to react to, that you want to say, that you want to, relay, that you don't always do in the right way. And that can cause a lot of issues. So I completely agree with being that emotional standard. And that doing physical things is a lot easier than dealing with your emotions. I think that we both agree that going to the gym is a lot easier than sometimes having a discussion with your significant other.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then we go into the protect and the fight portion of this. And I think that the easiest one to describe is to protect and fight for your family in the sense of other people, the people that wish to do you harm in this world, people that wish to not do their own work and take what you have worked hard for, whether that is your family, whether that is your wife, and take advantage of her, your children, when they want to give them different ideas of things that aren't what you believe in. And the world is all about that right now. And then take financially from you, take your physical belongings, or your wife's purse in a parking lot, like different things like that. Those are the easy things to describe. But I think because they're so easy to describe and they're so easy to say, like, oh yeah, I've seen Die Hard, I know what to do, right? Yeah. It's I think we've gotten into the habit as a society of thinking it looks easy in John Wick, so I could do it.
Yeah.
We watch too much UFC.
Oh yeah.
And we think that we could take everyone on, and you see time and time again, it's just not the truth. And men, I think, are failing to grasp everything that needs to be done to be prepared. And I know that me, for a long time, it was hard for me to even conceptualize what I was going to have to do to protect my family. And I think as I've gone down this journey of trying to better myself, I've gotten better and better. But I definitely, there's the physical piece of things, and knowing how to use like hand-to-hand combat, things like that, something that you have to continually work at and continually be in the presence of. Otherwise, if something ever happens, you're not going to be in the right mind frame.
Yeah. And I think another portion of that is protecting the ones you love, your family included, friends, whomever, from yourself. That is definitely a big thing to tackle, because like I said, you get emotional, you get upset, you say some things sometimes that you didn't mean, and you're backtracking. It's like, God, I wish that never came out of my mouth. You're biting your tongue, and you will live and die by your tongue.
Yeah, I think that's part of the emotional standard too, right?
Yeah.
You have to be able to be, not let yourself get drawn into bad situations, or not let yourself get overwhelmed or drawn in by the enemy to say things that will hurt other people, say things that will hurt your family, because you know your family better than anyone else. So you know where to press, which is exactly why the enemy will use you to be the one that hurts them. I think that goes into the second part of protect and fight, which is bad situations. And being able to get your family out of bad situations, not in just a physical sense, but being able to speak your mind when things aren't right. Be able to say, something's not right here, whether you just have a feeling and that's God talking to you and telling you, like, this isn't a good thing. You need to be able to understand that, and you need to be able to tell your family, and you need to have the communication with your wife, or your daughter or your son, in whatever situation you're in, where if dad says it's time to go and you have a serious tone, they know that, hey, we're going to go, we're going to just move on. And then later on, you can figure out what the bad situation was. Yeah. But that is part of it. And whether that is, there's just bad influences around that you don't want to be around because it's bringing things on that are going to be mentally not good for you and your family, or whether that is something that is potentially dangerous. Yeah. All the way to your children being in a school where they're teaching things that you don't agree with. Yeah, that's true. And oftentimes it does come like as a sixth sense, like as a feeling. Like your intuition is telling you something. You're like, maybe I should pay attention to this. And that's what I had a hard time conceptualizing that. And then as I've learned and I've read more in the Bible, I begin to feel like that has always been, for me, has been the spirit portion of the Trinity. That's how God talks to you. Yeah. It's a tap on the shoulder that gives you that, I don't know what's wrong here, but I know something is. Yeah. And so that's always been the way that I've understood it since I started to get into Christianity and understand about God at all. That was one of the first things that I was like, oh, like that's what was going on in those situations. That's God talking to me. Yeah. I personally, for the longest time, when I would hear people say, God's talking to me, hear his voice, things of that nature, I would roll my eyes. I'm like, I don't hear it. I don't know what the signs are. I don't know what I'm looking for. I know what I'm doing. The things in my life aren't right. I know that I'm pretty much dancing with the devil. But the farther you are away from God, the harder it is to hear it. And that's what sin means. Sin means to be without. So the farther you get away from God, the harder it is for you to hear him. So the moment you start moving a little bit closer, that intuition, that feeling gets a little bit stronger, gets a little bit louder per se, like you just know, like, hey, I can't do that. I can't say that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to say that. And that's kind of the progression of it. I never heard like a voice. I never heard like, oh, don't do that. Don't say that. Yeah, I think everybody has a different version of it. God speaks to everyone in different ways. For me, I'm very analytical. I'm not very creative. My brain works in different ways from other people, especially from my wife, because she experiences God talking to her in a completely different way than I do. But for me, it's been a physical feeling that is almost like a cold chill. And I always know, I never knew what it was before, but now, as I've gotten better at listening to it, I've gotten better at realizing what it is and experiencing it even more so.
Yeah.
So when I'm in prayer and I'm praying about something specific and I'm going down the list of, okay, like, what do you want me to do? I'll get certain feelings with certain things, and it's almost like a feedback loop. And that's the way that I've been able to make decisions and feel like I had God's blessing, and they've always worked out eventually in the right way. God teaches us different things. It's not always perfect in the beginning, and sometimes we have to learn those lessons, but that's how I've figured it out.
Yeah.
And I think for everybody it's different. I think some people might audibly hear God. I've had people tell me that. I've never experienced that, but I think that if God didn't give me a feeling that literally just smacked me in the face, I don't think that I would pay attention to it. I don't think God can whisper to me and let me hear it, because most of the time, most of the lessons I've had to learn in life, it's been somebody yelling in my face. So
100%. It has been very abrupt, very life-changing, very immediate, because in that time, that was the only way I would pay attention and listen. And he knew that. And no matter how much I fought that, he's like, I'm going to bring you to a point where you don't have a choice. Like, I'm going to put the choice in front of you. It has to be made, and you know it has to be done. And up until about 5 years ago, when that moment happened for me, is kind of when everything started to change in my life. And it was an awakening. And I used to hear people say that. I'd be like, gosh, that just sounds so fake. Like, one day God knocks at your door and be like, are you ready? I'm like, no. It came in the worst time of my life, and it caused me to pave a new way for myself. And I liked it. I wanted it. Deep down, I didn't like who I was. I didn't like the things I was saying, doing, treating people I loved and cared about. But even so, walking that path, I still made some of those small mistakes along the way. Some, when I say small, not in overall, but to me, as compared to the mistakes that I had made in the past, they were here and here. But they were still hurtful. They still didn't portray what I wanted to say or feel towards the people that I loved and cared about. And it's, like I said, it's still a growing process every day. To my person right now, the woman I love, she is very much an amazing woman, and I am still trying to grow into the person that I need to be for myself and for my daughter and for her. And it's those kind of emotions that I know God puts in your heart, because I know her, I love her unequivocally, and my daughter, and my family and my friends, that push you to want to continue to become better and walk that path even more. And that's another reason why we're here.
So I think that goes into the final piece of protect and fight, and that's the spiritual piece of that.
Yeah.
And I think that this is avoided a lot in the church and in mainstream anything, because it does sound taboo. It does sound, we've made it as a society and as a culture, we've made it something that we don't talk about, and I think that's by design. I think that the enemy, that Satan, has made it hard for us to speak about this without being judged or looked at critically, because if he can convince us that he's not there, he can play us a lot more.
100%.
And as a man, especially in the context of your family, we need to be in the Word, and we need to be knowledgeable in these different pieces of what God says about the enemy, so that we can be the one to say, hold on, in this situation, we're not fighting each other, we're fighting something completely different. Because, and know when he's speaking to us, when we're in the car and there's an argument with our wife, and we hear things in our head that aren't us. They're the enemy using things that make you angry in order to get you to do things and hurt the people that you love. And so That's one of the biggest parts, I think, for us as men, is being able to hold that line and understand when we're under attack and when our family's under attack, so that we can pray, that we can use the power of Jesus Christ to get that out, to get it away from us, get it away from our family, in order to pray and be the person that brings our family back to reality, and back to being on the same team.
Exactly. And one of the last things I want to mention about this, the biggest portion individually about this for you is self-awareness. If you don't know, like Jason was saying, the devil chirping in your ear, if you don't know what that sounds like, if you don't know your own strengths and your own weaknesses and things you need to improve on, this isn't going to go anywhere. And you're going to be on this hamster wheel in every relationship you have, from your wife to your kids to your friends to your family or whomever. Self-awareness is the biggest thing, because that gives you a baseline of where you need to start and how high you can go. Thank you, everybody, for showing up today. We really appreciate all your love and support. Tune in next time, and we'll see you later.